I'm your host, Karen Hudis, in this series on the network of global corporate control. Today's show is live and is called Bankrupt Banking Cartel and False Flag in Syria. Thanks as always to Carmen Stanley, studio producer and director, and Aliyah Jamari, audio and teleprompter. We're just about the only media show that's talking about reality these days, and yes, we are also the reason that the world is staying out of World War III. These are big claims, and that is why we are attracting the biggest shills when I put the segments up on YouTube in the archives. On the 11th of April, I'm going to show you what I tweeted when I put the segment up on YouTube. YouTube didn't allow me to upload the segment at first, so I uploaded it on Internet Archive instead, and then YouTube uploaded it on my second try. I replied to a tweet from that traitor impersonating the President of the United States. I pointed out that Trump was never voted in by the Electoral College convened under the Constitution of 1789. I also pointed out that the brass in the military were Knights of Malta who are violating their oaths of office, that's to protect the Constitution, and instead they've sworn to serve the banking cartel. These traitors are all trying to surrender the United States through a crash of the unconstitutional Federal Reserve note, which is masquerading as United States currency. Federal Reserve notes are not the United States dollar. The Federal Reserve is bankrupt, and it's getting wound down in the global debt facility. That's a big trust containing the world's assets. The legal United States currency is going to be exchanged for Federal Reserve notes in the global currency reset, using the United States monetary gold reserves in the global debt facility. The title of last week's DCTV segment was "The U.S. military is not going to surrender unilaterally through a planned destruction of the unconstitutional Federal Reserve note." Replying to Donald Trump, YouTube erased my comments, and it also hides my and other responses to comments, and YouTube does what it can to hide reality. Why do I put up with this? YouTube is owned by Google, and Google was created by the CIA. The CIA is serving the interests of the banking cartel and is headquartered in Switzerland. This lets people see for themselves that the banking cartel must exist in order to explain the treason. The banking cartel is revealing its existence by trying to censor reality. Whatever the banking cartel tries now that we are in the global currency reset backfires. We are now at the turning point for the global currency reset. We have been at a fork in the road for a while. Now is when we expect the Coalition for the Rule of Law to take the fork in the road leading to the global currency reset. This road leads to winding down the bankrupt banking cartel in the global debt facility that contains the world's wealth. I refuse to allow any of the agents of the banking cartel, and there have been many of them, to get the world's monetary gold reserves and other wealth. Without validation from the Board of Governors, that is, the Ministers of Finance and Development of the member countries of the World Bank and IMF, the crooks are getting nowhere. Ferdinand Marcos made sure that the crooks would be locked out by providing in the bilateral Minesfield Breakthrough Successor Agreement, that is the agreement that governs the global debt facility, that the assets could not be withdrawn before 50 years had passed. All of the world's people have to agree to recognize this signature authority for withdrawal. Without agreement from the Board of Governors of the World Bank and International Monetary Fund, there are no valid claims. No documents are valid after 50 years under the statute of limitations. Most recently, I told Tiburcio Villamor Marcos Tejian IV that all of his claims are invalid under the statute of limitations. Ferdinand Marcos set up this system and counted on us to figure it out. And that is precisely what we've done. It's watertight, and the bankers know this as well as we do. That is why they send in their shills, all of whom we reveal, and all of whom we trip up. By now, it's quite easy after all of the previous shills have gone down. You can see the latest examples in this segment, and you'll see them in the teleprompter that I load in the archives. We are now in a peaceful global currency reset. We control the world's wealth in the global debt facility. We're using the world's monetary gold reserves to replace the paper currencies that are issued by the banking cartel. The corrupt banking cartel is bankrupt. The paper currencies that the banking cartel is using to bribe everyone are being exchanged for local currencies and for currencies out of the world's monetary gold reserves. The false flag operation in Syria is not sustainable. Many people don't trust the mainstream media owned by the banking cartel by now. A critical mass of people see through the corrupt journalists. The chance that the banking cartel succeeds in starting World War III with their false flag operation in Syria is less than 10%. This series on the network of global corporate control has been on the air weekly for nearly 3 years. The name Network of Global Corporate Control was given to the conglomerate of bankers by 3 systems analysts at the Federal Institute of Technology. It's in Switzerland. They wrote an article in 2011 describing how the bankers controlled the companies and central banks on the capital markets. We're actually talking about a single large company that thinks they have the right to run the world and all of the world's governments and all of the world's militaries via corrupt generals who are members of secret societies. I exercise power on behalf of the 189 ministers of finance and development on the Board of Governors of the World Bank and International Monetary Fund, and on behalf of the people. The World Bank and the Global Debt Facility were created at the end of World War II by the Superior General of the Society of Jesus, also known as the Black Pope of the Jesuits, Jose Rizal. So let me reassure you, I'm not going to exceed my authority. This means that I'm not going to go any further than the people whom I'm acting for want me to. How can I know this? I have a very accurate way of knowing. It's called the Power Transition Model of the United States War College. I've been working with the Board of Governors of the World Bank and International Monetary Fund ever since 1986. And I've been interacting with the beneficiaries of the Global Debt Facility through my social media and via this series on DCTV for nearly 3 years. I write these teleprompters by listening to everyone. I look to see what the banking cartel has tried to hide in the previous week, and I look at the information that people have sent me. I really like Will Rogers' advice. If you get to thinking you're a person of influence, try ordering somebody else's dog around. The banking cartel is trying to start World War III because we're winding them down. And I tweeted humanity's wealth in the global debt facility. And I told people how to get all my old tweets. Staying out of World War III in upcoming DC TV segment, that's this one, Bankrupt Banking Cartel and False Flag in Syria. And then I got a tweet from Lisa Cole. Hi, Karen. My name is Lisa Cole. I'm in Australia and have recently come across your work, which I have to say thank you for, as it gives me hope. but I'm wondering, how are we to stay out of World War III now? And in answer to Lisa Cole, I said, "Hi, Lisa. You commented on my website, and I just sent you an email. The false flag in Syria is seen as a false flag by a lot of people, especially 70% of the U.S. military, and many of the brass, including Trump, are bankrupt under commercial liens." And then there was a man named Jakeman O'Ripple. He asked also, "How are we to stay out of World War III? We're working together in coalitions and winding down the bankrupt banking cartel." And what Lisa Cole sent to me in an email, subject, "Staying out of World War III. To whom it may concern. I've just come across the work Karen has been doing that hasn't been public knowledge, and I'm wondering if it's still valid today and the fight is continuing. If so, how can we here in Australia help? Thanking you, Lisa Cole." And then I answered her. That was on the 14th of April. Subject, "Lisa, just about everything I've stated remains true. I have cleared my statements with the embassies in New York, Japan, and Washington. Anything that I've said which is not true, I have publicly renounced. What do you think is no longer valid?" And somebody named Linda wrote that she couldn't access the teleprompter when I uploaded it on YouTube. She got the message, "Error, could not connect." And she said that was strange. And Thomas said that he didn't know if Trump is a knight. And my answer, Trump is a traitor. Trump is now in default on a commercial lien and is bankrupt because he's interfering with the global debt facility and the global currency reset. And then somebody named April asked me, "Karen, what is bound to happen?" And what I wrote, "My bets are with the power transition model, that we all come through safely and that we have to learn to work together." And somebody named Hamey wrote to me, "Thank you for telling it like it is. While not having any insider credentials of any kind to make a judgment call, all people can achieve this insight through personal research. As you sift through the endless conspiracy theorists and the people who think that they kind of know, that they are out there. And people can come to the right conclusions. The media has been the number one, keep the people in ignorance and tell them what we want them to hear, which is controlled by a few elite and powerful families of the world. I personally had come to this conclusion a number of years ago through unbiased personal research. Yes, knowledge means power in this case, and which this group of absolutely corrupt cartel do not want you to have. But regardless what they want, their day of reckoning will come, and soon. Again, thanks for the exposure of this corruption and moral degradation that affects so many throughout the world. Safe and long life for you." And could you stop scrolling? I just want to tell people about what happened with me this morning. I've been affected, my heart has been affected. I have something called an atrial fibrillation. And I went to the hospital because my cardiologist was going to give my heart a shock so that it would start ticking in the right tempo. And what happened was very strange. I had a very high blood pressure. It's never been so high. And they refused to do the procedure. And before they sent me home, I said, "Well, let me just lie quietly and see if my blood pressure will go down." And while I was lying quietly, it went up even further. I think I was being affected by some of that military technology. But regardless, I'm just going to keep on working as best I can. And we're all going to work together, and we're going to learn how to work together. And we've come so far that we've passed the point of no return. And we're just simply going to do whatever we have to work together to have the global currency reset. I promise you, I'm not going to shrink away from what's going on now. What happens? I was telling some of the people at DCTV, there isn't a day that goes by that somebody hasn't broken into my house. They take things and they move them, they break them. They think they're intimidating me. That doesn't intimidate me. I'm not intimidated. So I'm just going to keep on going as best I can, and we're going to work together. And I'm going to be in touch with all of you. It may be difficult, but I'm going to do whatever I can. And you're going to pass my messages along with word of mouth. And the other thing is people want to know whether I'm trustworthy. Only I really know that I'm trustworthy, and I'm trying to convey that to you as best I can. But the thing that you can see is you can see what is it that I'm trying to do. I'm trying to give you voice. I'm trying to get decentralization. This is not something that's working for the banking cartel is trying to do. So just, you're right to be skeptical, because there are a lot of people that claim they're working for the people and they're really not. So just keep your eye on the ball, and we're all going to muddle through. That's all. Okay, I'm going to keep on with the teleprompter. The banking cartel is trying to start World War III because we're winding them down. Humanity's wealth in the global debt facility. How to get all my old tweets. You can read them. You can see that I've been consistent. Staying out of World War III in upcoming DC TV segment, Bankrupt Banking Cartel and False Flag in Syria. That's this segment. We have a motive for wanting to help you with critical thinking. We think if you can determine that what we're telling you is correct, you will help all of us to stay out of World War III. On this series, we've been challenging some fundamental beliefs. DCTV has brought you this series for 3 years, every week since May 2015. We're sometimes the only ones that are telling you that something is true. Some of the things that we tell you are quite controversial, such as that Auschwitz was a uranium enrichment factory. Instead of backing down, we're sticking to our guns, and we're telling you there's nothing wrong with what we're telling you. What is wrong is that you need some help with deciding whether something's true. This is where critical thinking comes in. YouTube's many attempts to censor the archives of this series and the comments of viewers have only backfired. People are in touch with each other, ultimately by word of mouth, and they defy this censorship and the hidden corruption that has come to light. The U.S. military is not going to surrender unilaterally through a planned destruction of the unconstitutional Federal Reserve note. Enough people are informed, and coalitions have formed. People are also going to make sure that cures for deadly sicknesses like cancer do not remain hidden. The world's wealth sequestered in the World Bank and International Monetary Fund for over 50 years will end the corruption in the world's money system through a global currency reset. When the banking cartel and the black nobility at its center try to hide and censor, this only reveals their existence. China's lies about its right to access the global debt facility are also revealed in the teleprompter for the segment that I'm going to be showing. The network of global corporate control has a 3-page comment which shows you how badly they want to confuse you. It really shows you how desperate they are. We're working together, and this derails these corrupt thugs. And a YouTube sock puppet, which is a fake account. I'm showing you in the teleprompter a screenshot. Denial that that person was a sock puppet, that's the standard operating procedure of a sock puppet. Of course, he said, I'm not a sock puppet. Wow, you shouldn't waste your time on the sock puppet's comment. We're not getting bogged down in religion. The comment is only a time waster. We're not even talking about gold standard. We are talking about the world's monetary gold reserves. There's a big difference. To get you caught up on where we are, I can tell you what I just tweeted. That's what I'm telling you, actually. And what this person, the sock puppet, said, I'm not a sock puppet. I'm just an average nobody. Can we critically establish a God's existence? The concept is the conflict or contest between the Semites south of the Mediterranean and Latins north of the Mediterranean, established thousands of years ago, and it has gone back and forth between them ever since. It's generally a conflict between the republic versus theocratic empire. This is all gobbledygook. I'm just showing you some of the examples of what this sock puppet wrote. It actually went on for 3 pages. You can just keep scrolling past it. I don't think they need to hear the rest of this sentence. Just scroll down a little bit if you could. If we look at the influence, he's also comparing me to Barbara Ward. That's right. He was just trying to confuse everybody. The only interesting thing about his comment was that he actually did think it was worthwhile to try to confuse people about me. That shows you that the banking cartel knows that a lot of people are paying attention. And I'm just giving voice to everybody. And then a human rights advocate said, an interesting tip is that one of the countries which compose South Africa radically changed since they started installing cell towers all around, close to schools. It made the young students have mental problems and become aggressive. And that source for that information was Barry Trowers. And then I wrote, I'm going to end with my exchange in this week's segment with my conversation with a shill who was asking me about whether I really do represent the United States on the board of executive directors of the World Bank and International Monetary Fund. I pointed out that none of the embassies or U.S. government official denies this fact. This wasn't good enough for the shill. He was called Ravenquest. So I'm going to show you our conversation. And then I wrote, am I fake news or are we headed to World War III? My last tweet today. And Ravenquest wrote, I didn't find any appointments of such on the government site or in any of his tweets or social media posts. So it's most likely fake news. Plus, Donald Trump makes his appointments to office transparent. Thank you for your feedback. And what I've said to Ravenquest, you're not achieving anything with attacking my Twitter account. I suggest you stop cluttering my Twitter account or I will have to block you. And I did. And my response says that the U.S. military knows that the banking cartel tried to nuke Charleston, South Carolina, and that enough people know what's going on. By calling what I've said fake news, Ravenquest shows that he was a shill. And Ravenquest wrote, I see your point, but still is Rosen with the IMF. If anyone can verify this, it would be you. And I responded to Ravenquest, you see my point that you are a shill. Yes, others see this as well. And then I showed a picture of some clowns. And then I wrote on the 12th of April, to the Coalition for the Rule of Law. I'm in a dialogue with a misguided Twitter account named Ravenquest. Ravenquest doesn't believe that I've been telling you the truth. I'll make this very simple. Yes, Ravenquest, I have been telling you and to the rest of the world the truth. I worked in the World Bank's legal department for 21 years. I got to know everybody, and they got to know me. The place was corrupt, and I didn't accept that. And I worked together with all the countries and the whistleblowers in all the countries. Then I started working with the people in the world's militaries that weren't corrupt. They gave me a very big responsibility because all this time I made it clear that I knew I was working for everybody and that we are all in this together. Now I'm going to give you a copy of my conversation with Ravenquest. Well, actually, you're getting it here on this broadcast. And I'm going to show you a conversation with two crooks working for the banking cartel. One of the crooks, Tiburcio Villamor Marcos de Gian IV, claimed that all the world's authorities would punish me and ordered Interpol to arrest me. Tiburcio Villamor Marcos de Gian IV, along with the rest of the banking cartel, is lying that the banking cartel is entitled to the world's wealth in the Global Debt Facility. The Global Debt Facility is a trust that contains the world's wealth, and it's managed by the Board of Governors of the World Bank and IMF. The fact is that RavenQuest is a shill working for the banking cartel. The world's wealth belongs to all of humanity and not the banking cartel or the black nobility at the center of the banking cartel. I'm allowed to speak for the Global Debt Facility on behalf of humanity. I represent the U.S. in the Board of Governors of the World Bank and IMF. I'm going to end with a statement that I made in one of my tweets. Somebody has to do what I'm doing, and that's why I'm doing it. Now, we're just about to run out of time, so I think I'm just going to take the last 3 minutes to talk to you extemporaneously. I think that's the best use of my time, because people are trying to figure out what's going on, and it's very confusing, and it's deliberately confusing. It's confusing because the banking cartel is trying to make it confusing. And so a lot of people say, why don't you give me proof for good that I'm telling the truth? And the best proof, actually, is to look and see how everything I try to tell you is interfered with. It's blocked. Why is it that the media, the newspapers, are they're owned by the banking cartel and telling you lies? That's not normal. And now I'm being told to wind down, so let me give you the outro. In the intro, we made some big claims. We're just about the only media show that's talking about reality these days. And yes, we are also the reason that the world is staying out of World War III. I've shown you that the brass in the U.S. military are betraying their oath of office to support the U.S. Constitution, and that instead they are agents of the banking cartel. This truth is keeping us out of World War III. And the other point that I'd like to make is that you don't hear Trump or General Joseph Dunford speaking about what I'm saying. They're not denying it. They have nothing to say. They're just exposed. And that should give you pause. That should make you realize that, yes, we're all in this together. And those people are, they're just liars. You have to learn, as we read in the script tonight, you have to do your own thinking for yourself. And the most important thing you have to do is you have to talk to other people. Don't think that you can just send them emails. One of the things that happened this past week is some of the emails, many of the emails that I was sending and that people were trying to send to me were being erased. So, until next week, I'm your host, Karen Hudis. Oh,